Alright, Bruchim Abayim, welcome everyone. I heard that the Daf Yomi is starting today Tractate Avodah Zarah, which is one of the most interesting tractates of the Talmud, although it's very widely misunderstood. And even though I myself went ahead, I'm already learning Zvachim, but I decided I wanted to make a shir on the Tractate Avodah Zarah and try to keep up with the Daf Yomi for those who are learning the Daf Yomi. And I would like it to be Lili Nishmas, a dear friend of mine who was nifter today, from Ben Yosef Alevi. It should be a tova for his neshama. And also, I'd like to ask anybody who's watching should please subscribe. If you're not always already subscribed, I see a lot of the people who watch my videos, something like 90% are not subscribed. And YouTube has a new rule that if you have less than 1,000 subscribers, they'll take you out of the payment program. So I want to try to get, I'm over 600 now, but I need about 370 or so, 372 I think at the moment, new subscribers. So hopefully a few of the people who are watching this who are not yet subscribed will subscribe, and if you are subscribed, maybe you'll send it to a friend. So, perhaps many people here have never studied the Gemara before. This is the Babylonian Talmud. And the way it works is like this. We have the earliest parts of the Talmud to be written down are the Mishnah. And then we have the commentary to the Mishnah is the Gemara. And there are two versions of the Gemara. The earlier version is the Jerusalem Talmud, and the later version is the Babylonian Talmud. And the Babylonian Talmud is considered to be more authoritative.
What?
This, and so, the Talmud is divided into 6 general Sidorim orders, and in those orders there are, each order has around a dozen tractates, give or take. Some more and some less. Not all the tractates are covered in the Gemara. Some are only in the Mishnah. But this one, Avodah Zarah, which is the tractate in Seder Nezikin,
not play with the water.
It addresses the laws of idolatry and dealing with idolaters.
You get very cold.
And so this is the. And it has a lot of very interesting passages. So let's get started. So we have our Mishnah. It talks like this: Lifnei dehen shloiv dekichavim shloisha yamim. Also lasis v'loseisi moem. Lashila lushal mehen. Lavoisam luvois mehen. Lafaran lafoyer mehen.
Hey, stop it!
So it says before the festivals of idolaters, of idol worshippers, a Jew is forbidden to make any of the following business transactions with them. To do general business transactions, to lend them money or articles and to borrow from them, to lend them money and to whether it's lending or borrowing articles, lending or borrowing money, and to repay debts or accept the repayments of debts and other types of business transactions. And the next mission is going to discuss what are these holidays that are discussed. And it should be made clear that the Achronim explain that these laws do not apply today. Even the Rishonim already discussed it, because in general we don't have true idolaters today. Most people worship the same God that we do if they worship in anything, and so therefore even if they have different theologies and different ideas, but in general it's the same. So we don't have the same types of laws of idolatry as in old days, although there are still some people like this, but even many of them are still really essentially monotheists. However, the fact of the matter is the Jewish law states that a non-Jew is forbidden to worship idols. And so therefore, if we're doing business with them around their holiday season, they might say, "Oh, look, it's on account of the fact that we're worshiping that this heathen is worshiping this idol." He might think that he might attribute his good fortune in his success in business to that, and so therefore, to do business in this way, it's placing a stumbling block before the blind, which is something that's forbidden in the book of Leviticus, and that's how the rabbis understand it. By causing someone else to commit a sin is a way of placing a stumbling block before the blind. It goes without saying you're not supposed to play, nasty tricks on blind people and trip them, but it has a much wider intent that it comes to include anything that's going to cause someone, giving someone bad advice and so forth, and so this would include, since idolatry is not only forbidden for Jews but under the 7 laws of Noah for non-Jews as well. So we're worried that perhaps that they will either be using the money to perform, and not only that, but if you're involved in it, maybe you're giving them money, and they're going to go use that money in their worship. It's even worse. You have a hand in the worship, and so for that reason, this is where these laws come into play. We mentioned that there are different opinions in the Rishonim and Achronim. So the traditional commentaries that we study are Rashi and Tosfos and many others. Rashi says, "Hu mishum de'azul moedel v'edis kachavim b'yom eidai." All of these prohibitions, what did he do? Are because he's going to go and thank his idol on the holiday for his success in his business. Shal demided a hoder be'ein kegoin behema v'kelim so kiyesh alish b'im reyehu malvim le hoder be'ein kegoin maoz d'chsivim kesef tal v'salmid malv le'tzoa says misham le'mois achirim. There's a question: what about you give them back this an animal that was borrowed or some items? You have to give it back to him. The thing is that, all right, you're loaning money, whatever, you're going to give other money. There's different issues. So we have Tosfos. The first Tosfos here says, "L'bnei Edeim basa the Tzanis in Hedron da'irav Ovid keichavim mazalas Tana namli lahamas after the Avodah Zarah v'sedi Yeshuos le'makos Yeshuos." The Sheikh in the Sanhedrin Lachi Tanul Basa Sanhedrin Racher in Choizel Sidra V'Shoina Sachas Avodah Zarah V'Hariyas. The first Tosfos just discusses why do we have here this Masechta Avodah Zarah. And he basically says is, since in Tractate Sanhedrin there's discussion of laws of idolatry and the punishment for idolatry, and Malchus and Shvuos are considered to be extensions of Masechtas Sanhedrin, even though they are separate Masechtas in our tradition, separate tractates, separate books of the Talmud. So after Sanhedrin, which includes Malchus and Shvuos, then we have Avodah Zarah, and then after Zharius is another tractate. So Ifnei then Gimel Yomim. What's the story about 3 days? Simon Tani Tanina B'Seif Ki Hocha Chena Isha Niknes B'Gimel Drachim La'asuk Shavli Gimel Drachim Tani Tanina B'Reish Shiva Drachim Bod Kinas Azav Shivas Yomim Kedimim Kapram Gimel Drachim Shavu Gitei Nashim. Tosfos here is noting that sometimes numbers are mentioned at the end of a Mishnah, sometimes at the beginning, and so forth. And then it's standard for Mishnayos to mention a number, so 7 or 3, and so here we have 3. There could be there can be certain understandings of what this means as well. This is Lakutei Rashi also says Eidein means Yom Chagam. Eidein means their holidays. Interesting, in Arabic, Eid is a word for a holiday, which is a cognate of this word Eid. And Yom Edom is something we find in Scripture. So, we have a long Tosfos here that's probably very important to look at. Also, L'Seis Moyim. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, just a little bit. So, Perish Kuntras. So, Tosfos was written by many different authors, many of whom were actually Rashi's grandchildren and students and so forth. And so, when they say Perish Kuntras, that is a reference to Rashi. Rashi says, "Mishum da'azal b'yam eidoi moedel avodas kechavim mitich b'shonim mashma shebatzalema af mekach mimkam." So he says that people are going to worship their idolatry, and so it's a problem that we're helping them in their worship, or giving them reason to be thankful to their idolatrous worship. So Tosfos asks the question: the end. So the question is, some people might ask a question, which we addressed already in the Shir. What are we talking about as far as an idolater? Would today's people who practice other faiths be considered idolaters? And the answer that Tosfos brings, because you might think, oh, maybe, because we see pious Jews, they'll do business with non-Jews even on their holidays. The question is, they have, most different religions have one day a week that they set aside to be a holy day. Does that mean we could never do any business with them?
It's going to have a green top.
Every week we could have this issue. And so there's an opinion that it could be before and after, 3 days before and 3 days after, and then you're left with nothing ever. You could never do business with them. How could it be? So the answer is that the Gentiles who live today are not idolaters. They're people who have their own traditions of how to worship God. But certainly we don't have an issue of 3 days, because the Gemara later says that outside of the Holy Land, the prohibition will only be on the actual day of the holiday. But even that, even on the day of the holiday itself, it's not an issue. I'm not going to go through the whole Tosfos, but basically that's what he would say, that that for sure Christians and Muslims who worship the same God as we worship are not idolaters. The same could be said of the Sikhs, who basically took the theology of the Sufi Muslims and combined it with certain traditions of the Hindu culture, but it's essentially monotheistic religion with a certain amount of Abrahamic roots. So they're not the same idolaters that we're talking about. Whereas when the Talmud was written, they were talking about the ancient Romans who worshipped Zeus and Jupiter and Hera and this and all the different Roman gods, which Zeus was the Greek version of the same. There is mention in our tractates here of Mercury and Aphrodite and so forth, which we'll come to discuss later, and the different rules that apply to these different idols. because of their matter of worship and so forth. But we'll put that aside for now. And so, for the most part, what we're discussing here is theoretical and not practical. Rabbi Yehuda Oyman Ifroin Mehen Mipnei Shemeitzer Huloi. So we're going to go back to our Mishnah. Mishnah says you are allowed to accept payment from the heathen, from the pagan, because it's going to cause him distress. He has a monetary loss. So Amar Loi, so the sages answered, no, Afal Pishav Hu Achshav Samech Hu Achizman. He says the sages answered, no, even to accept a payment is an issue, because at least even though he feels bad that he has to pay money, he's happy that he doesn't have any more debt. So that's our Mishnah. So the Gemara begins with a discussion of this word aid, and looking through Scripture for the word aid, which is the word that's being used here for the pagan festivals, and which is different than the word that we would use for our holidays. We have words like Moed and Chag, Yom Tov. These words apply for Jewish holidays, and here there's a word aid, L'fnei Eidehen, which, as we said, would seem to be a cognate to the Arabic word Eid. But there are scriptural sources for this word, and so this discussion is, in Hebrew, we have two letters that are essentially silent letters, although they both have a way of being pronounced, but the Ashkenazic tradition is that they're both silent, is the Aleph and the Ayin. The Ayin is a little bit more pronounced, even in some Ashkenazic traditions. The Rambam says that someone who pronounces an Aleph like an Ayin like an Aleph, shouldn't lead services in the synagogue, shouldn't be shliach tzibur. But we'll leave that aside for now, because we see, even the Chazal, they were not sure if this word aid should be written with an aleph, as it's written in our Mishnah, or with an ayin. So Rav Shmuel Chad Tani Eidehem, V'Chad Tani Eidehem. So one says that the word aid starts with an aleph, and the other says that the word aid starts with an ayin. This is a machlokes of Rav and Shmuel. So if you teach that it's written with an aleph, it's not a mistake. And the one who says with an ayin is also not a mistake. What do we mean? Meaning they both could be right. It's not a contradiction. In Deuteronomy 32, we see in the 32 verse 35, it's the song Shiras Hazinu. It says, their day of their aid is near, which could be understood as a day of destruction, or a day of reckoning, or a day set aside. So we see this term is a biblical term. And why is it considered a calamity, such a day? It's because the sin of idolatry will lead to their downfall. And there's also, we have biblical proofs for to spell aid with an ayin, which means a witness. As it says in Isaiah 43 verse 9, let them bring their witnesses, and they will be found innocent, vindicated. Meaning that they should come and show that it's a derisive challenge. It's a term of derision. You know, why don't the idols themselves come and say how righteous their worshippers are? So, excuse me. So, now why if we have aid with an aleph, why not with an ayin? Amalach tavra adif. Because it's stronger to say it's being broken. That's a stronger term of destruction and breaking. And that's with an aleph aid. Mandasani Dehen, my time Laitana Dehen, and the one who teaches with an ayin, why not with an aleph? Amalach, Man Kugaram Hu Tavra. What is the cause of their being broken up? Eidu Shahidu Ba'atzman. It's the testimony which they gave against themselves. Hilkach Eidu Sadifa. So testimony is a stronger term, and it's both the same. So how the Gemara asks this question? How could it be with an ayin? Let them give their witnesses and be justified.
When you stop hurting your sisters. Stop being crazy. It's a pair.
The question is this verse in Isaiah talking about idolaters? Habi Yisrael Ksiv, it's written about Jews, about the Israelites. Damar Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi. By the time of Isaiah was talking to the Jews. What Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi said, Kol mitzvahs Yisrael oisen b'olam hazeh bois midas lehen l'olam haba. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi says any good deed, any commandment, any mitzvah which a Jew does in this world will come and testify for them in the world to come. Shneimar yitnu eideim yitzdaku. As it says there, witnesses will come and be vindicated. Ali Yisrael. These are the Jews. So it's not a challenge. It's a good term. V'yishmu v'yomu emes, because the verse says they will hear and say it's true. That's Eloi Dekachavim. That's talking about the idolaters who will admit that the God of the Bible is the true God. Amar of Huna, brother of Yehoshua, but Huna, the son of Rabbi Yeshua, said, "Mandam Edain ba'Ihacha." What if they say with an ayin? What verse? Maybe there's a different verse that shows witness is a term of an idolatrous festival. Yotzei festival. Kulam toihu chamudeim bal yilu v'deim hema. It's a verse also in Isaiah 44:9, that says all who make idols, they're all empty, and their expensive or adored objects won't help them. Their worship objects won't help them, and they are their witnesses, meaning the idols will come and testify against those people who worship them. The Maharsha says perhaps that there are evil spirits, demons that are created through the sin of idolatry that will come and testify. So then it's going to go and explain a little bit more about this idea. Darash Rabbi Chanina bar Papa. Rabbi Chanina bar Papa explained like this. V'teimer Rabbi Simlai. Some say it's Rabbi Simlai. La'asad lavai. Maybe a Kadosh Baruch Hu sefer Torah menichai v'cheikai v'omer l'mish asak ba yavai v'yitel scharei. In the final days, in the future that's going to come, in the eschatological times, God is going to hold a Torah scroll and hold it in his chest, and he say, anyone who studied this should come and take his reward. So whole different groups of mixed together groups of heathens will come together. Shneimar kol goyim niksu yachtav. It says in Isaiah 43, all the nations will be gathered together, Gentile nations, and they're going to say what they're going to ask for a reward. And God is going to say to them, don't come to me all mixed up, but rather every nation should come on its own and bring its scribes, its scholars. As it says, and the nations will be assembled. A nation means a kingdom. It says one kingdom will overpower another kingdom. Right? This is the end of the first the first Amud. So we're going to stop here and make a separate video for the next Amud. So each Amud will be a separate video, so there'll be 2 videos for each daf. So if you're following with the daf Yomi, you're going to watch this video and then the next video. Alright. Thank you very much. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe.